So we continue our discussion of the Bill of Rights. We've covered Amendments 1 through 5, and those actually have a lot of details to cover, so this next video probably shouldn't be quite as long. But the first 5 amendments, a lot of stuff happening there to protect the people, again, from the national government. As you get to Amendment 4 and 5, you are protecting those that have been accused of the crime. The Fourth Amendment being the warrant requirement and probable cause requirement if our stuff is going to be searched or taken. And the Fifth Amendment protecting all sorts of criminal or accused protections from due process. If you're going to take our freedom away, if the national government's going to take away some sort of liberty, then they better do so with a fair process and treat us all the same way. That's been interpreted to mean that way. And the Fifth Amendment covering things like self-incrimination, double jeopardy, grand jury, and we continue on with the idea of protecting those that have been accused of the crime with the Sixth Amendment. And here you see that this is identifying criminal prosecutions right here, that criminal prosecutions shall all, with anybody accused of a crime, so we're talking all about criminal trials here, we have the right to a speedy and public trial. So by speedy trial, we mean that we can't take too long for the trial to happen. Not necessarily the trial's got to go fast, because that's got to happen as well, but the other thing that speedy trial relates to is the fact that we can't wait, or we're not allowed to put off or postpone trials with an unnecessary kind of delay. The government's not allowed to do that to you. And the trial is open to the public, meaning the trial, anyone can come in and watch the trial. That's allowed. That's why we see more famous cases today happening on TV, because the Sixth Amendment allows for that to happen. You also see here that our criminal prosecutions, these trials, we get what's called an impartial jury. The word impartial, hopefully you know, means unbiased. So the jury has to be someone who has no idea what's going on in the case. They have no background knowledge, no biases, and they're going to make a decision based on the information that has been presented only in that trial. Also, in criminal proceedings, we see here that we are to be informed of the nature and cause of our accusation. We have to be told why we're put on trial. We have to be told what we are actually being accused of. If there are witnesses that are going to testify against us, we should be able to be there in the room to hear what they have to say. And we also are allowed to have witnesses in our favor. And we also, right here, have the right to a counsel, which hopefully we know that means that we have the right to an attorney. So the Sixth Amendment deals with once we've been accused, once the Fifth Amendment and we've had the right to remain silent, and we have had a due process, we are also allowed in the trial to have certain rights given to us and certain protections. So this is the completion of the rights of the accused right here. The Seventh Amendment deals with not criminal cases, however, but this one deals wholly with civil cases is what this one is. And here we're seeing that we have the right to a trial by jury in civil cases as well over a certain amount. That dollar amount, $20 you're seeing here, has been adjusted for the present day dollar worth of our dollar. The Eighth Amendment, here's more back to criminal proceedings, more protections of people accused of crimes. The Eighth Amendment says that we have the right to have no excessive bail and no cruel and unusual punishment, meaning that if we post bail, meaning we have the ability to wait during the time period between our accusation and our trial. We can wait, but the bail must match the nature of the crime, and the punishment must not be cruel, and it also must not be unusual. The Ninth Amendment is what we would consider, and I'm going to actually put this one in type so we can see what I'm writing here. Let me change the text color so you can actually see it. This is a big deal. The Ninth Amendment is what we're going to call our unenumerated rights. The word unenumerated right here means not written. Hopefully you know that from unenumerated powers, because the Ninth Amendment says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And what they mean here is other rights retained by the people. So just because the Constitution states that there are certain rights, they're not going to be construed or limited to deny us other rights. So here's where we see that you've got to justify the existence of another right in the Constitution, but you can't just make it up. But if you can justify it by other language in the Constitution, then you will be able to have that right as well. The most popular unenumerated right, the most widely used one, is called our right to privacy. Never, ever, ever in the Constitution do we mention that we have a right to privacy. However, the right to privacy is something that the Supreme Court has found that we have. So the question I'm going to ask you tomorrow or after we watch this lecture is, what amendments 1 through 10 justify the fact that we have privacy? So which amendments can we use to justify the fact that a right to privacy would be what we would consider an unenumerated rights, or our unenumerated rights? So the amendments 1 through 9 deal with how people can be protected against the national government. Amendment 10 mentions the states. And the question from the Anti-Federalists was, what about all the stuff not in the national government, and not in the Constitution? Does the national government have the power to do all of that stuff? Well, the 10th Amendment is the answer to that. And it says here the power is not delegated or not given to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states. So powers not given the national government and not prohibited to the states are saved for the states. So this is the amendment that says state governments can do things, have powers that are not written in the Constitution. So the ability to create marriage licenses, the ability to control education, those things are never mentioned in the Constitution, meaning they're not a power of the national government, meaning they are a power that is reserved for the states. This is called our reserve power. State powers are called reserve powers. We're going to get into these powers a lot more later on with another unit, but I want to mention that in the 10th Amendment, I want to make sure we understand that the people and the state governments have the power to do things that are not written in the Constitution. And that's where the Bill of Rights ends. There's a protection in the beginning of individual rights when it comes to the First Amendment, with freedom of speech and religion and press and assembly. We also allow individuals to bear arms. We allow families or people to not have to house soldiers. We then, from the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments, protect people who are accused of crimes in a variety of ways. And we continue that the protection of people accused of crimes all the way through to the 8th Amendment. That 7th Amendment dealing with trials of civil cases. And then the 9th Amendment, kind of this overall what if we forgot something? That 9th Amendment's going to cover it and create some flexibility of rights for the people. And then finally, we end the Bill of Rights with the 10th Amendment that acknowledges that state governments have the power to do the things that are not mentioned in the Constitution. So that's your quick overview of the Bill of Rights. You probably have a lot of questions of what ifs. Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? I want you to take some time now to write down those questions as you review the amendments and think to yourself, what are some of the exceptions, or what are some scenarios that maybe you want to know how the amendment would address and protect us in that scenario. We'll address all of those questions that you guys might have in class when we meet again.